What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I have the keys to the A90 Toyota Supra. This one is the A91 Edition. It is finished off in the Refraction blue, super sweet spec. But if you've seen in previous videos, I had the all-new 2023 Nissan Z for an entire week at my house. I filmed 15 videos with it. I'm planning to buy the new Z whenever they hit dealerships, and I owned a 2020 Toyota Supra for 2 years. So today, now that I've had a full week, 2 tanks of gas in the new Z, I'm gonna take out the new Supra once again, get my bearings with this car, and really compare the two, discuss a little bit of the comments that a lot of people made on some of my Z videos, and then really just get into how these cars compare. Alright, so now setting off in the Toyota Supra. I haven't driven an A90 Supra since I had the Z. First and foremost, so this car is owned by my friend Rick. He is considering selling the car, so I'll have his contact information down in the description below. We have 13,000 miles on it. We got the air intake and a downpipe. He does have the stock downpipe as well though. So if anyone is interested in a really cool limited edition A91 Edition, definitely contact him down below and see if you want to buy it. Certainly a really nice car. So we're gonna start the video with my initial impressions just driving the car. Obviously I own one for 2 years. The 2021 and up though does have a different turbo manifold and turbo setup to where the power is a lot smoother. One of the complaints I had with my 2020, especially tuned, there was just so much torque down low. It spun the tires almost all the time whenever I would floor it, so it just wasn't that smooth. In the Z, I really liked how smooth the power was. So with that said, driving in this car now, getting comfortable once again, it's easy to get comfortable. I'm very familiar with it. I mean, you have a nice aggressive view out, small windows and everything. It's definitely a nice car to be in. Very smooth, we're going 50 miles an hour. I mean, it certainly is a nice car, and the BMW intervention with how Toyota and BMW built this car together, you can totally tell it's there, and I think that's a good thing because it makes the Supra just feel like a refined car. You can tell there's a luxury refinement about the way this car drives. So really nice, just getting my bearings with it again. Fun factor, we have the manual mode, and sport mode opens up all the things, stiffens up the suspension, steering, stuff like that. Well, it certainly gets up to high speeds without even thinking. It is very smooth, and one thing that I'm certainly noticing between this and the Z is just how smooth the power is. The 2020 Supra just isn't quite as smooth because of the smaller turbo. Man, it is such a nice car, and when we get into some sharp turns now, you can tell how hunkered down and tight the Supra is. Probably is one of the best performance cars for the money. I mean, going 65 around some sweeping turns. It is really, really tight and light on its toes. And the ZF automatic transmission, it is really snappy. Gosh, I love how precise this car is. It is a really, really top-notch sports car, and I think one of the biggest things with the Supra, it exceeded all expectations. Nobody really expected it to be what it was, and it really is a solid performance car. I honestly don't think there's much of a power difference. 4th gear. It doesn't, maybe pulls a little bit harder. It's not crazy much faster. I don't think you're gonna drive the two back to back and think either is slow. I know there's that one video, of course, that this gaps the Z by 2 car lengths or so. But the biggest thing is the tires were completely different. The Z was spinning off the line a lot, the Supra wasn't. So that's the major reason why there was such a big difference in the racing. When I tested the Z, I did 0 to 60 in 4 seconds flat using launch control. This car, it's 3.8, 3.9. You're not really gonna notice that. The gear ratios as well, I think the Z seems to have a little bit taller gears to where you don't need to shift so quickly. This one, you do kind of stay in the higher RPM, 5,000 to almost 7,000, so you are maybe shifting a little bit more. The biggest difference though is the transmission. The ZF 8-speed, as far as torque converter automatics go, this is the best torque converter automatic. It is absolutely lightning quick and as precise as you could ever want it. When you're driving in the Z, there's a delay. It's about a 200 RPM delay, Not the biggest difference, but it's very noticeable. Now, I've had people comment and say, it doesn't really matter, nobody's always redlining it, blah, blah, blah. If you're driving in a performance car, a sports car, precision is everything. The more precise your car can be, the better it will drive. No matter how you slice it and dice it, the precision is worth a lot. And in the Z, I redlined it so many times where it then hit the rev limiter, cut power. It's a little bit slower transmission. I'm used to, I hit the pedal and it's already shifted. And in the Z, you just don't quite get that. You have to anticipate it a little bit more. So for me, the automatic Z just isn't the best performance-oriented transmission. It's not bad. I think 95% of people will have zero issues with it. It's pretty good, pretty snappy. I like the gear ratios. It's just when you hit the paddle, 200 RPM later is when it's gonna shift. So the precision you get with the ZF is awesome. As soon as I do it, shifted. Like instantaneous, that is what you want in a sports car. I'm buying the manual regardless, so I don't really care. But if you are comparing automatic to automatic, this is by far a better transmission for the precision. It is certainly better. Along with that, handling is a big thing. The Z gets just a fixed suspension, and to me it's a little soft. It's a little too soft for a sports car. It rides really good, really comfortable. I mean, it's a quiet car on the highway. When you're in the Supra in normal mode, the suspension is nice and soft. There's a little bit of body roll, stuff like that, but you just still get a nice tight chassis. This car in this Supra, when you do it in sport mode, the dampers get stiffer, and all of a sudden I can feel the bumps and all the little ups and downs in the roads, and when you're in the turns, it handles really, really well. So I think that's one of the biggest differences also between the two cars. This car, because you have sport and normal mode, you get the best of both worlds. The Z pretty much rides like this does in the normal mode, so it's just a little bit soft, and when you go to upgrade the suspension, you will be stuck with whatever you get. You do coilovers, you know, the spring rate you adjust them to, the ride height obviously, that's going to be how your car is going to ride. The Supra, when I had my lowering springs, I still had a soft, comfortable ride, but then I could have a firm ride in sport mode. So this definitely is a little bit more performance oriented, and just a little bit more precise, and it has a little bit more of that refinements. Now, to address one of the biggest comments that I got on all my Z videos, which I was not expecting, is about the price difference. Now, people love to compare things, and for some reason, people like to compare things that don't even add up. So when you're comparing a Z to a Supra, you have to compare the ones that actually compare to each other. So with the Z, you have to be talking about a Z Performance. That car without the two-tone paint job is around $51,000 with destination. You cannot buy the car without paying that $1,000 for destination. So that car is $51,000. If you buy a Supra 3.0, you have to add the driver's assistance package, because then you have all the features that the Z Performance has. The navigation, the parking sensors, the radar cruise control, the upgraded audio system, and then a few more luxuries. So you have to compare them apples to apples. When you look at the Supra 3.0 Premium with driver's assistance and destination, because once again, you have to have the car get to your dealership, this car is around $57,000. So there's a $6,000 price difference. And again, with that, a lot of people commented saying, well, if you can afford the Z Performance, $6 grand's not gonna break it, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, yeah, honestly, probably 99% of Z owners can absolutely spend $6 grand more and get this car. But that's not the point. Just because you can afford something doesn't mean you just buy it without caring. You have to take into consideration that the Z is $6,000 less. Money talks, you know, money is value, obviously, and if a car is cheaper, you would expect it to be a little bit lower level. This car being around $6 grand more, you would expect it to be a better car. And when you look at the Supra, yeah, it does perform a little bit better. It's sharper handling, a little bit better power, and a little bit better refinements. And it's mind-blowing to people who don't seem to care about the price difference. Not to say you can't afford it, it's just there's still a price difference. So obviously the cars are going to be a little bit different. And what I found is, I think that $6 grand, the value of what you can do with $6,000, I think it makes sense for where each car is priced, to where, yeah, this car should be a little bit more expensive for the same options. Now, for some of you who could care less about having hard drive navigation, heated seats, you know, the radar cruise, the upgraded audio system, and all those extra tech features, honestly, you should just buy the 3.0, because if all you care about is performance, a base 3.0 Supra is only like $1 grand or $2 more than the Performance Z, and if those luxury features are completely irrelevant, you know, who cares about them? And a grand or two, I don't think that is at all a price difference to make anyone deter of which car to buy. Any car I'm buying, if it's a grand or two difference between another one, it doesn't make a difference. But $6,000 does make a difference. That's enough money to say, okay, let me take a step back and think, is that worth the extra $6,000? So with all that said, I think at the end of the day, the Nissan Z is basically a cheaper budget version of the Toyota Supra. You know, if you look at the Supra, the base 3.0, you get all the performance you can need. It's an awesome performance car. You are missing some tech features though. Now, if you want to spend around that money, only sacrifice a little bit of the handling, just a little bit of the power, but you want all those extra tech things, the Z Performance is going to save you a grand or two. Again, not a crazy amount of money, but it's nice to say save a little bit of money. But then, you know, you get all the tech features and pretty much really similar performance, just a little bit less. If you really value all of those luxury features and you want that extra performance, you're going to spend $6,000 more. No big deal. Obviously, you can probably afford it, so whatever, but you're still spending more money. Now, if you want to go on the budget way and get the $40,000 base model Z, you're missing a lot. I think the fact that you're missing the limited slip, I think, is the biggest downfall with the base Z. I had a Genesis Coupe 2-liter turbo, had like 220 horsepower. That had an open diff, and I did not like that. In the sharp turns, I could feel the inside tire spinning. I just did not like that. I can't imagine a 400 horsepower car, though, with an open diff. I feel like that's just not going to be fun, and Nissan really should just make that standard. Even when you look at the Scion FRS, when that car came out, $24,000, I think, back in the day when that thing came out, came standard with a limited slip. So the fact that Nissan doesn't give that standard, I think that's kind of a negative on the base model Z. That's the one thing it absolutely needs. You can probably do it yourself for maybe $1,000, so not too crazy if you're very mechanically inclined. However, it might be a little bit costly having a shop do it. The Supra 2.0, you get a lot of the refinements, the nice interior, the luxuries over the base Z. However, it's significantly slower. So, I don't know. I don't think I would really get the base models of either cars unless you really are just going to build up the Z. I'd go for the Z. I really wouldn't get the base model Supra just because you're getting a 4-cylinder for more money than a twin-turbo V6 Z. So, with that said, honest thoughts of the two cars. Honestly, I think they're about equal because of the $6,000 price difference. With that said, I do think the Z is a little softer than I expected. I like sports cars that are firm, rock solid, you know, super tight and nimble. The Z is a little on the soft side for my personal taste. With that said, it's $6,000 less than what my Supra was, so the fact that I know I can pump modifications into it, spend $6,000 in mods, let's just say, and get it to the price of a normal Supra, you know, $6,000 in mods on a Z is gonna outperform this car. I mean, you're talking very nice coilovers, tuning, exhaust intakes, heat exchanger, all that stuff to make it a much better performing car. On top of that, a lot of people commented and then said, you know, what if you just put $6,000 in the Supra, then it'll really smoke the Z. But then it'll still be $6,000 more. You can't ignore a $6,000 price difference. That is just a factual thing that makes something different. If something costs $6,000 more, it better be better. With that said, if you put $12,000 in the Z and $6,000 in this to make them both the same price point, you know, we're talking almost $70,000 cars, the Z's probably gonna be even better because now you're gonna have massive turbos, probably pushing 1,000 horsepower, who knows. So anyway, yeah, the pricing I think is pretty reasonable. With all that said, if they never make a Nismo Z, I will definitely not keep the Z for too long and then probably look back into a Supra. However, if I get another Supra, I'm gonna get a base model 3.0 with none of the options and a manual transmission. Because at that point, I'll have plenty of other cars in the garage that have the navigation and all the luxuries. The Supra would then just be a fun sports car manual. I don't care about the luxury stuff in it. The Z Performance, obviously I want all the things in it and I have to get the top of the line to get the performance features out of it. So if they don't make a Nismo, being the Z's a little soft, yeah, I probably won't keep it too long. With that said, if they do make a Nismo, I'm really confident it's gonna outperform the Supra and be just barely more expensive. I think it'll be $59,999, pushing 450 horsepower, probably a lot sharper, firmer, and a much better car than the Z Performance. And I think a lot of us who think the Z Performance is a little on the soft side, the Nismo is gonna be the one to get. I think that's gonna be a long-term car for me. Hopefully it comes out. I'm pretty confident it will. However, if it doesn't, I'll fall back on another Supra. So I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I know when I first got the press car Z, I was like all about it, of course, but after driving it more and more, reconsidering the Supra with the options and stuff, I wouldn't say no to a base 3.0. Of course with the manual, I'm not gonna get another automatic, I just prefer the manual. You know, I have the dual clutch in the GTR, other cars coming that are going to be automatic, so I need to have a stick shift in my life. So with all that said, I think that about sums up today's video. Driving in a Supra after having a pre-production new Nissan Z for a week. The Z is going to need a lot of exhaust work to make it sound like this, though. This is a really fun car. It certainly is a step above the Nissan Z, but you're paying for it. So I think they're worth the price point. I would have liked to see the Z Performance be a little bit firmer, at least give it an active suspension where it could stiffen up a little bit and maybe tune the transmission to be perfectly responsive like this. Those are my biggest downfalls with that car, but it's $6,000 less, so I think you can kind of forgive it for being a little bit softer than one of these. With that said, we're gonna have to see when the manual Supras come out, when the manual Z, when I can drive one of them and buy my own, and then with the Nismos coming out, we'll see how much better of a car that is. But either way, I don't think you can really complain with either car. Buy the car that works for your budget. Each are really good options, and the Z kind of gives you that freedom to put a lot of modifications in it and still stay under that $60,000 mark. So anyways, those are kind of my thoughts with the two cars. Fun driving a Supra again. It really is a nice car. I like the extra refinements. It certainly is a hard car to complain with. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for plenty more content, and then check out Rick's contact information if you're interested in buying this car. It's really nice, super clean spec, obviously a very rare model. So definitely give him a call or send him an email if you are interested. But that is it for today's video in the Toyota Supra. I'll see you guys in the next video.